الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن
So let's start out with who you are and how did you end up coming to America? Just give us a brief account.
Sure, sure. So the name is Maqsood. Full name is Maqsood Mamawala. And I say the full name because tradition is that's the middle name is my dad's name. And originally from India, and the area that I'm from in India is a paternal society, meaning we use our dad's name as our middle name. And then later on, when I got married, my wife also took my name as her middle name, and our kids both have my name as their middle name. So Maqsood is an Arabic word which means aim, destination, or goal. And today, I'm an executive leadership business coach, and my Maqsood, Rich, is to help leaders like you to become better leaders in their journey to improve and do the things that they want to do. I came to America in 79. I left India in 1978. In between, I was in Morocco. And that's where I went to earn my money, if you will, to pay for my MBA, for which I came here. Then in 79, like I said, I came here, went to Wisconsin, Whitewater, Wisconsin. Graduated from there in 81. Got married, got a job right away in 81, worked for an insurance company, and then got married, have a couple kids, and we now have moved from the Midwest and live in New Jersey. So that's a little bit about me. And the biggest reason I came is to get the MBA. I always wanted an MBA, and I wanted it to be from the best place I knew in the world, and that was the US. So, but the other benefit is obviously I found my lovely wife and found a job, and I'm grateful, thankful, and blessed.
Okay. Next part is can you just give us a general explanation of Islam's foundings and the 5 pillars of Islam?
Sure, sure. So Islam began early in the 7th century CE, as they say, and when it was believed that the Prophet Muhammad received the word of Allah, as the Muslims refer to God, through divine revelation is what they call it, right? So the religion begins in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and eventually spreads throughout the world. It's principally found in the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Northern Africa today. It's most places, but these are the main places. Its holy book is the Quran, and which was revealed by Gabriel, the archangel Gabriel, who's called Jibrail in Arabic. And because, like most people in those days, Muhammad couldn't read or write, it was illiterate, the words were written down over many years. So unlike the Bible, the Quran is still in the original Arabic, and it is not supposed to be read in translation. So there's a difference there. The 5 pillars that are basically important and that all good Muslims as should adhere to are shahada, which is faith. So it's a profession of faith, and that basically is what they say, which is La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah Aliyun Waliullah, which basically means there is no God but God, and Muhammad is his prophet, and Ali is his next in line. Salah, which is prayer. A good Muslim will pray 5 times a day. Now, some of them have combined the 5 into 3 times. And basically, it's facing Mecca. So wherever you are in the world, you would face east to west or north to south. But you're facing Mecca. And it's usually dawn, noon, mid-afternoon, sunset, and after dark. So a lot of people will combine the dawn and noon, the mid-afternoon by itself, and the sunset and after dark is another combination. So 5 times a day. And believers are called to prayer by what is called a muezzin. A muezzin is an Arabic word for the crier, the person who is usually at the top of the minaret, which is the tower in a mosque. And that person is calling people to prayer. And he starts with, God is great, come and pray. It is preferred to go to a mosque to pray, though you can pray anywhere. And people in the Middle East, there are videos, and people who may have seen this, people will pray right in front of the shops, in the farms, wherever they are, put a mat down and pray. The third one is zakat. Zakat is basically a tax in a way, but it's giving. You would think of it as tithing in church. It's giving a portion of your wealth to charity throughout your life, a percentage, whatever you can afford. There's no requirement, but one should do that. The next one is fasting in the month of Ramadan, which is called Swam in Arabic. SAWM is the word. I may not be saying it right. It's a fasting in the holy month of Ramadan, like I said, and when all healthy adults are required to abstain from food and water from sunup to sundown. This is not easy. Many religions fast, but most religions do not say that you can't have either water or food. When I was growing up in India, I wanted to be like some of the people from the other religions because they could have fruit and they could have water and all the other stuff, but they call it fasting. So for us, purist, it's pure fasting in that sense. So sun up to sundown, and yes, daylight saving times, you got to do the full sun up, sundown. It's not 12 hours. When I was in Morocco, daylight savings is 2 hours. So sunset was like 9:45 at night. Hajj is the next one, which is in Saudi Arabia, in Mecca. Every Muslim should make a pilgrimage to Mecca in their lifetime, keyword, if they can afford it. It is a spiritual gathering of Muslims from around the world, and the affording part is important because they say that you should not borrow money. You should be able to do it on your own money, so to get there. So those are the 5 pillars.
Okay. What does it mean in your perception to be a good Muslim?
Well, I would think that, just tying it to the last piece that we talked about, it would be somebody who, a good Muslim would be somebody who does his or her best to try and adhere to, as I say, as much as possible to the 5 pillars, right? So all the different things. Also, additionally, he or she should refrain from smoking, from eating pork, from alcohol. And that's sort of in general what a good Muslim ought to be.
As far as the pork and alcohol, I haven't stumbled across that quite yet in my studies. Can you explain that a little bit? Why pork and alcohol?
There's more discussions, if you will, and reasoning around pork. And my recollection from what I've been told by my elders and the other people that I know in the community is that years ago, probably hygiene related, pork caused some problems, and it was deemed at that time saying pigs are not clean animals in that sense, and they're found all over the place, as you know, and that because of the diseases that come from it, you should not. And alcohol, there is not anything written per se, but my guesstimate would be to remain pure, if you will, and not be tainted, and have your senses around you, if you will, and not do harm to your body. So it was from that purity perspective is my sense.
Okay. Speaking of dietary restrictions, Judaism has some, some restrictions as well too.
That's right.
How is Islam related to Christianity and Judaism in your perception?
That's a good question. So as we know, and I'm sure as you've heard and read about, these three religions are the monotheistic religions, right? They believe in one God, and they are called the children of the book. And sometimes people also refer to them as Abrahamic religions. And the idea is that conceptually they're connected, and they are connected. So Islam recognizes all the major figures that Judaism and Christianity revere. So they believe that so they being the Muslims believe, Islam believes that the key prophets are not five, but six. Adam, Noah, they call them Nuh, N-U-H, Abraham or Ibrahim, Moses, who's called Musa, and Jesus, who's called Isa, and number six, Muhammad. They believe Muhammad is the last prophet. So the key thing here is that they believe also that they're all prophets. Therefore, they believe that Christ is not the Son of God. The logic being, God is indivisible. You cannot divide or multiply into God. God is God. And, whether you call him Allah or, whatever you want to call him. I mean, the Hindus call them by different names, and different people have different names. So another distinction here. So again, they believe in Jesus. They give him equal rights, if you will, as Muhammad. They don't say Muhammad is bigger or better. He's just the last one. And that they also accept, or rather don't accept, the concept of Trinity. Same logic, that God cannot be divided into anything. He's one. God is one. So.
Okay. What can you tell me a little bit about the particular denomination or type of Islam that you were raised as?
Sure. Again, when you're a kid, you don't know that, right? You think everybody's who you are, or frankly, and on the flip side, when I was growing up in India, I thought all Christians are Catholics, and you and I know that's not the case. So as I grew up, I realized that my family in India belonged to a sect of Shia Muslims. There are two sects, Shias and Sunnis. And the particular sect of Shias that my family belonged to is called the Dawoodi Bohras. And the Dawoodi Bohras, even today, have a leader sort of like a pope. He's called the Sayyidina. And so a couple things, the traditions that might be of interest. When a child is born in our family, the ceremony is called the Akika. And basically it's where the child's head is shaved to remove hair that the child was born with. So it's the purification part. If a child is a boy, there's also circumcision. And if the family can afford it, they need to and want to sacrifice as a blessing, as a thanks that they have a child, and maybe a goat or whatever, and the meat is then shared with other members of the family so that other people also can partake in that and pray. As children, we went to religion school, if you will, and they call it madrasa, and I was taught by a local priest. Could be like a minister. And this was a learned person who taught us how to read the Quran. We learned Arabic, so I can read and write Arabic because that's what the Quran is written in. The words and prayers. I can say that, so I can recite and read, but I don't know what they mean because they didn't teach us Arabic per se, but they taught us how to read what was there. So it's sort of like Latin in a Catholic church. It may be there, but you may not really know what it means unless you go and study Latin. And we were expected to attend the mosque. So even though you can pray from home, you want to go there. Friday is the holy day for Islam, right? Different religions have different holy days. Men and boys in church sit separately, even today, even for events like weddings and birthdays and whatnot. They unless it's very close family, the men and women and boys and girls sit separately. They cover their hair, their head rather, especially when you go to church. So men would wear a white long shirt, and that is important. So they wear the shirt and the white pants that they wear so that everybody is equal in the eyes of God, that everybody is dressed alike. Holidays, lots of holidays, like any, most religions. So it's like, the flight of Muhammad's flight from Mecca to Medina, which had a war and that was involved. There are stories about his martyrdom, and Hussein, who is Imam Hussein, Imam is prophet in that sense. So he was a grandson of the prophet, and how they had this big fight at Karbala, which is still exists today, and the stories that go around it and all that. Around the age of 14 or 15, there is what's called a misak, which is sort of a confirmation for boys and girls. They will that signifies their entry into adulthood, and where they can do all the important things like adults do, like fasting and things like that. And another thing that sort of is different in Islam is that they do not allow figurative art. So if you go to a mosque, there are no images of the prophet. There are no drawings. There is no likelihoods, as they call it, of depictions. The early followers were basically, they would go to the mosque, and there is a leader. There's a leader within the community who leads the prayer, but everybody else is in the same row, as it were. There's no hierarchy. The mosque will have beautiful decorations, like words from the Quran and inlaid material with stones, depending on how wealthy the community was, and so on and so forth. At the end of life, burial practices are similar to that of Judaism. Burial should take within 24 hours, and there's no embalming of the body, no viewing like we have in Christianity and other religions. Even the funeral does not warrant a special service. It could be as simple as that. Somebody can pray over it and be done. So bodies are wrapped in a simple cotton shroud, usually white. Coffins are made of plywood, nothing fancy. Prayers for the deceased are typically done as a group. If it's, mostly in the afternoon, if not in the evening, because the body has to be buried right away within 24 hours. So those are some of the things that I remember growing up, and rituals and traditions.
Okay. What does the notion of peace in the Muslim faith mean? What sort of you hear whenever someone says the name of Muhammad, they often follow it with peace be upon him.
Yes. Yes.
And the notion of peace associated with God or Allah or however you pronounce
Correct.
it. Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah. So in Islam, peace is more than the absence of violence. It's bigger than that, right? So it's not having war, not having violence per se, but it also refers to justice. It refers to the ability of people to reach their potential to be their full selves. Islam has two meanings. I mean, most people think of Islam as one meaning and say that's submission to God. But there's also a correlation many times when you read and you look at research, that peace is also a part of that. So Muslims believe that peace can only be established in your heart, in their hearts. And when you have peace, you can fully submit yourself to the will of God. So it impacts their and manifests itself in their external conduct as well. So there's a deeper meaning than what you and I think about as peace. I don't know if that helps.
It that kind of clears things up. That's kind of what I was looking for is,
Okay.
I kept on running across the word, the word peace in a lot of the studies that I went through. And I was just looking for a little bit of clarification on that, because it wasn't used in a way that, someone who, just had recent exposure to the
Correct.
Muslim
It's
faith
beyond that. It's
would
beyond
use
that.
it, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
thanks for clearing that up and
You're welcome.
expanding that a little bit.
And you're right. When we refer to people like the Prophet or his kids and grandkids, his immediate family in particular, there is that PBUH, PBUH, which is the peace be upon him.
Mhm.
So that's a way of recognizing that person and saying that person is special. It's a unique person in that sense. But again, your point is well made. It's beyond just the word literal meaning of peace.
Okay. In every single culture, religion, you have your mainstream, the ones in
Yes,
the middle. You've got these the ones that are mainstream, common. They're could be described as moderate, but still practice the faith. They could be very, very devout. And then you have those on the extreme, the extreme
yep,
left, the extreme right, what have you. Um, I I would assume you're more of a moderate mainstream type practitioner. What what is the perception that that mainstream Muslims have of the more extremist sects? The ones that are you know declaring war in the name of Allah, and
sure,
you
sure.
know
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a common perception and a misperception, if you will, in that sense, right? I mean, most Muslims are peaceful. Most Muslims I know. In fact, I don't know anybody who's not, in my circle anyway, and my family and friends and the extended group that I communicate with. So most Muslims are peaceful, they're law-abiding, they abhor, cannot say it more strongly, abhor the actions of these extremists who use religion to justify their behavior. And every religion, I don't care what religion it is, every religion has its fanatics. Every religion. I can list them if you like, but you know what every religion means.
I know exactly.
Everybody has them. So jihad, the word jihad is used a lot by these groups. And jihad, to clarify, so they use the word, the extremists, the so-called terrorists that people talk about, right? I mean, the labeling that goes on with it. They use the word jihad, and jihad is used to defend, they use the word jihad to defend their actions. But the term actually refers to the inner struggle. So jihad means war or struggle. But it's not the war against other people, it's the inner struggle that we have. I say we because you're part of that too. We all are. So it's the inner struggle that one experiences to what? To fight our personal demons, the things that we normally as humans deal with. And it's not against other people. So it's more internal. And I don't know if that helps, because again, people usurp, meaning take whatever they want to from here and plug it over there, and gives a lot of other people a bad name.
Okay. That's kind of what I was looking for, is the statement that most Muslims are completely peaceful, and they look upon the extremists, the terrorists or what have you, as kind of twisting the faith to justify their actions, and that's really what I was looking for with that.
Right.
What challenges and struggles did you have to overcome in India and then again here in America?
Good question. So being Muslim in India was not as difficult when I was growing up. So just to put things in context, as you probably know, India has over 1.4 billion people today, billion with a B. And the largest minority in India are Muslims. Now, that's a lot of people when you think about the fact that, at one time it was 12, 13%. Now the numbers change, obviously, a little bit here and there. But you're talking billions of people there together, total, but then millions of Muslims. So the largest Muslim country in the world is Indonesia, but there are more Muslims in India in that sense, right? In terms of numbers, as part of another country. So there were incidents in India. There were communal riots, as we call them, violence between Hindus and Muslims. A rumor fled, is actually spread, if you will. And it's easy to do that in a place like India where there are so many people and so many people who are fanatics on both sides. And then somebody comes and says, "Hey, you know what? This guy did something to your temple," and the guy says, "Oh, that guy did something to your mosque," and within minutes you got a mob. So it doesn't take a lot to incite a mob in that sense. But in my case, a lot of the people that I grew up with, even where home was, so home was in a community where, or in a street where we lived on, in our houses, and the businesses were some Muslim, some Hindu. So we had neighbors who were Hindus. I went to school, I went to a Catholic school, and I'm glad I did, because a lot of the people that I met in that school were obviously Christians, because Catholic school, and Catholics, but also Muslims, Hindus, Jews, Jains, some people that kinds of people that people in the world don't even know about. So that's my experience. Today, different story. In India today, there is the current leadership in India is like many other places in the world, pitting people against each other and saying, for their interest, the divisiveness helps them to gain their political roots. And that's not just unique to India, but in India right now, there is a policy called Hindutva, which is putting Hindus first. Again, we can talk about that later if you want, but that is a policy that suggests that Muslims are not to be trusted, that they are a danger to India, which is absolutely wrong. It is not correct at all, because as a group, you can't say a group is that bad or good. We just talked about that a minute ago. Individuals, yes, but individuals that are bad seeds, if you will, in every basket. I don't care what fruit you're talking about. I'm talking about fruits, but anything else you want to look at, there's different kinds of, there's all kinds of people everywhere. So Muslims, again, because they're the largest minority even today, this whole notion of Hindus first is very worrisome. And I'm concerned about my family, people who are still in India, and other people like that. Talking about the US, for the most part, I have personally not encountered any prejudice while I've been in the US. None. When I arrived in the late 70s, it was during the Iran hostage crisis, if you remember that from history. And obviously there was some animosity that Americans rightfully had against, people from Iran. They thought I was from Iran because I didn't look like them. A lot of the people that I went to school with came from, I was in Wisconsin, so a lot of people were from Wisconsin farms and families who had never been anywhere. And they looked to me, and I got a guy who doesn't look like them, and he's got a full beard. At that time, it was black. And they associated whatever they associated with, and people would call me names, call me Iranian. Obviously, I'm not. So it's lack of knowledge, it's lack of understanding. It's being insular, which happens not just in Wisconsin, but a lot of other places. So I did not hear negative comments once they got to know that I was not an Iranian. I mean, that obviously it took a minute. But it was that's the only time I can think about where there was a personal affront, but not because I was Muslim or Indian. They thought I was somebody else. So there are people I know in our family who, maybe because of a name that stands out a little bit more. Most people, when they look at my name, they don't know where I'm from. So that obviously helps in that regard. But if you have a name that is a very clear name, that is a very Muslim name, there might be prejudice in that sense, but I haven't felt it.
Okay. We talked about the 5 pillars, one of which that you mentioned is called the Hajj.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little about the Hajj pilgrimage?
Sure.
And how, the faithful, the pilgrims that undertake it, how does that change them? What is that experience?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you firsthand, but I have not gone through it myself. It's a big deal. It takes a lot of effort and time, and as one gets older, it also gets harder to do. And I'll tell you why. So as I said earlier, the goal is to go at least once in your lifetime as a good Muslim. One must be a Muslim. I think they have now maybe allowed other people to come in, but it's controlled very strictly by the Saudis, by the Saudi government. There is a limit because so many people want to go there. There's a lottery. There's a limit to, but they sort of manage how many people can come in. Like I said before, you have to be able to go on your own 2 feet, even financially. As I said, you can't borrow money. You have to wear special clothing. Very simple. You have to shave your hair off, and no boots, no sneakers, barefoot. They might allow something else maybe for elderly people. It's arduous. It's very difficult because it's in a desert. It's desert like climate all the time. So you have to tolerate the heat. You have to be able to walk most of it. Again, there are accommodations made for older folks. And then when you reach the Kaaba, which is the central piece, there are huge crowds. And again, you better be able to handle yourself in a crowd. Again, if you have money, like everything else, right? You can maybe hire people to carry you, but that's not common. But the religious fervor, again, these are the faithful, the real, when people go there, I've heard of people who are literally overcome by emotion and cry and just because they're right at the source. They're right at what they believe is the most important thing. It's a sacred, more than sacred shrine that they're circling. You may have seen pictures of people going around the Kaaba, and it's like this huge mass of people. It's like one humongous body that's moving around, or being that's moving around, but it's all individuals. So again, that's what I know from people who've been there. I hope that clarifies a little bit.
That helps. That's more than what I knew before coming into this.
Cool. Cool.
I've placed a couple of images in the in the presentation already of individuals undertaking the Hajj. They were aerial photography. And talked about that a little bit in sort of the essay coming up to.
And it's a big thing, right? And the Hajj, as they call it, the Hajj, the person who comes back, they get a title. So if you were to go there, they would say Rich the Haji. So that sort of stays with you. It's like, oh, he's been to Hajj, because not everybody can afford it. Not everybody can go there. So it's a big deal.
Okay. Well, we're pretty much just about out of time. They gave me a fun little counter up on the top that has me about 8 minutes.
Yeah.
In the few remaining minutes that we have, is there anything else that you feel people need to know about the faith? Any misconceptions that are out there that we haven't already covered?
Yeah. I would like to say that again, Muslims are like people everywhere. It's no different, right? Most people are good people. Not most Muslims, I said most people are good people. And within the most people being good people are most Muslims are good people. So it's like everybody else. They're kind, they're helpful, they do a lot of work for the communities. I know some people, other people know them too, who are incredible in terms of philanthropy, in terms of what they do for the poor, for the needy. Education is a big value. People understand that, especially in the part of the world that I came from. So helping people to better themselves, and you know the value of education. I know the value of education. I mean, if it weren't for my education, I wouldn't be where I am today. So it's helping people at the core. It's helping people, with water and electricity and things like that if you need to. So in my view, people should not be using any religion, including Islam, to condone what they are doing, which is not good. It's a free country. Do what you believe in, do what you do. The main thing is don't force it on me, and I don't force it on you. I mean, that's live and let live, right? That's what America is so great about. And not just America, anywhere in the world. So that's the only thing I would say is that, when in doubt, ask. Amazing things happen when people communicate.
Speaking of communication, you just wrote a book, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Would it be all right if I plug that at in the end
Please
of the
do.
video? We'll put up a picture of it and maybe
please
a little
do. If you need a link, I can send you a shorter link that I have. I sent you guys a bigger link before, but now there's a shorter link, or you can get one from Amazon. Let me know what you need.
Okay.
Please, please do. Thank you.
Send the shorter link. I'll plug it into the notes of the video.
Yeah.
And maybe you get a few more readers to read up about you, about going to the moon on a bike.
And that book also is pertinent in that sense, because I was in Morocco, which is a Islamic country. It's a Muslim country. And if you want to plug that in or put that in, Maghreb, the Arabic word for Morocco is Maghreb, which means west. And the significance is that it is the westernmost Muslim country in the world. So it's called La Maghreb. And anyway, but I hope this helps. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking time out of your day and talking about your Muslim faith growing up and your experiences and all that. And it's I definitely learned a lot, not just about you, but about the faith in general. And I think that's pretty much all the questions that I
Cool,
had.
cool.
So,
I'll just send you the link in an email, like we've been doing, and then you'll have it. And if you need something else, let me know.
okay. Well, thank you
Thanks,
very
Rick.
much again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.